What's up, everyone? Alex here. This is For the Love of Video Games, episode 266. As always, I'm joined by Daniel Santos. How's it going, man?
I just finished watching another episode of School Days. I'm not doing good right now.
You're not doing good right now? You sound like haggard.
Feels bad, man. Feels bad.
Oh no, you're watching anime. That is terrible. You know, it's funny.
No, anime can be good. It's just this anime. It's bad.
I see. I've been watching a lot of different animes recently. None of which.
You've been watching JoJo. JoJo's fucking awesome.
No, you're confusing me with Wild Burger, Yakuza Mom, and stuff. That's not true. I'm not doing that right now. It's completely on hold until all of the current season of JoJo is done, which won't be until fall of this year. So
okay, you're one of those people that you like to wait for it. You don't like to watch it as it's airing. You like to wait for it to be finished and then binge it.
Yeah. I mean,
okay.
It's funny because, we started watching One Piece back in July of last year, and we are literally 100 episodes away from catching up to the current set of episodes. So we literally put a kibosh on that, literally stopped right there and said, no, we're not catching up to current One Piece. We are stopping right friggin' here. So,
okay.
So that happened. Have you seen, speaking of animes, have you seen High Score Girl, actually?
Oh, neither of those.
Okay, so
I wouldn't be surprised if there's an anime called High School Girl.
Yeah, right. Generic name. High Score Girl is fantastic. It is, serialized in Square Enix's mangas and publications and stuff, which is really weird because Kakegurui is also a Square Enix published manga. Think about that for a second. Square Enix manga and stuff. Not necessarily something we commonly hear about, but both of those.
I remember back in the day, I had no idea what exactly their affiliation was, but I remember seeing Square Enix's logo on Fullmetal Alchemist.
Mm-hmm.
I know they made 2 of the games, but again, I have no idea what their affiliation was with the anime.
I thought that Konami actually released a Fullmetal Alchemist games here.
No, that was Square.
Okay.
Maybe Konami did as well, but Square Enix for sure made 2 Fullmetal Alchemist games on the PS2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, isn't it weird to think about Square Enix as a manga publisher though? Again, Kakegurui and High Score Girl, which by the way, High Score Girl is super freaking hot right now, in Japan and of course in the United States, especially in the fighting game community, because of course High Score Girl is all about the early era of video games around the 80s and the 90s and stuff, where arcades were king, home consoles were awesome as well, and man, it's you should definitely watch that. It's only about 12 or 13 episodes or something like that. Really short run. And season 2 is actually coming out very, very soon, I think. 4 more episodes or something like that.
Okay. I've heard mixed things about the other one, Kakegurui.
Yeah.
I've heard it was basically Kaiji, but not as good. And Kaiji's awesome. I love Kaiji. That's great. But everyone pretty much is yeah, it's the dumber version of it.
I am not aware of what that is, to be quite honest.
Oh my god, you have to watch Kaiji.
Where is it on?
Crunchyroll.
Okay, so here's the thing. We've been, my wife and I have been working a lot on computers over the past month or so our eyes are not that good lately. I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but have you ever felt sometimes when you're trying to focus on something, your eye starts twitching rapidly and you can't control it?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so we've been kind of avoiding watching anime that way, so we've been doing a lot of dub stuff, which unfortunately Crunchyroll doesn't have. So
I don't think Kaiji has a dub.
And besides, it wouldn't be available on Crunchyroll anyway. So, I mean, I think
why wouldn't it be? I'm pretty sure Kaiji is still on Crunchyroll.
right, but Crunchyroll is mostly sub stuff.
Yeah. Oh, you meant even if it had a dub, it wouldn't be on Crunchyroll. That's okay.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's like that's I was gonna say like that's Crunchyroll's specialty is like it's subtitled.
Right. Because they get everything like hot. Like they'll get it like within a few hours of when it aired in Japan. I mean, I get that. And I mean, I think you're missing out, but I understand.
Yeah. I mean,
it's a really, really good show, though.
We'll check it out. We'll check it out at some point, but Kakegurui is something that my wife and I kind of enjoy, like guiltily and stuff like that. I think it's ridiculous, like especially with like how like the gambling happens and all that crap. It's freaking ridiculous. That being said, there are two versions of it on Netflix. The other one is the live action version, which actually like I kind of like a lot too. I love, like, I don't know about you, but have you seen a lot of anime or manga turned into live action? Because I love probably about 90% of those like crazy movies.
I saw that Jinro got like a live action like Korean version or something, and I was just like, what the hell? Like, that's such a great movie. I don't want to see a live action version butcher it.
Yeah. MB on the chat actually says like he's seen like Kakegurui and he's currently like watching like season 2, which that's pretty cool. Have you seen any other live action like mangas, animes turned to movies?
I know that Full Metal Alchemist got like a live action version, and I've heard nothing but terrible, terrible, terrible things. Yeah, the Death Note one also, like, well, Death Note got like multiple live action movies. The Netflix version, a lot of people hated, but apparently the Japanese ones people thought were like okay.
Yeah. So let me tell you, like from memory, which ones I've seen. Like as far as like this whole thing is concerned. I've seen both the 90s Great Teacher Onizuka and the newest one, the new Great Teacher Onizuka in live action, both of them. The Rurouni Kenshin movies, I think there are 2 or 3 of them. I'm not 100% sure. Death Note, the one with Tatsuya Fujiwara, the one released around 2005, 2006 or something like that. Both movies I've seen. I've seen the Phoenix Wright movie. Yes, the live action one.
Oh yeah, I've seen that one too. That one's pretty weird, but fun in its own kind of bizarre way.
Yeah, that's kind of off the wall, like right there. And of course, Kakegurui. I mentioned that.
Not an anime, but I did see Like a Dragon, the Yakuza live action movie.
Oh Jesus! Okay, yeah, I need to watch that at some point. I know that
it's bad.
Really?
Yeah, it's bad. There are some moments that are great though. Like, I would say it's worth watching just as kind of like a curiosity, but it's not a good movie.
Oh, jeez. Like I the only thing that I've seen from that is like Majima looking kind of a bit scrawny in that one.
Dude, he's the best part of the movie for sure.
Really?
The actor like fucking nails him. The problem with the movie is that like only 1/3 of the movie has anything to do with the game.
Huh.
The rest of the movie are like these weird side stories that are not even tangentially connected. They're like barely connected at all. And they're just like have nothing to do with each other. It's so weird.
That's really odd. That is really odd that they went that direction. That's kind of crazy.
The actor that plays Kiryu, though, did a great job. Like, I was like, yeah, no, I believe this guy is Kiryu.
That's cool.
He's obviously not quite as built, because obviously, like, fucking Kiryu is like this chiseled Adonis. But like, still, like, I still bought him as Kiryu. Like, I was like, yeah, this is a convincing Kiryu.
Wow. That's pretty cool. Like man, You know what's funny is I'm just looking at like, you know, the stuff that I have on Plex and stuff that are kind of live action anime, manga, you know, video game stuff, and I never watched the 2 live action Attack on Titan movies, which I'm kind of scared, to be quite honest. I've had those for like years, right? Like 2 or 3 years, and I'm like, I don't know if I should watch these movies now, considering like there's the amount of failure that's potential of the movie is so high. You know, it's like it's so high.
I mean, this might be a hot take, but I don't think Attack on Titan's all that great to begin with.
Oh, that is a hot take. Damn.
I'm not saying it's bad, but like massively overrated.
Okay. Wow. Where can people find you on Twitter if they want to email you?
If you want to shit on me for not liking Attack on Titan that much, you know, at Shintai Reviews, go for it.
Go for it.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, wow, it's not amazing. It's like 6 out of 10.
Damn, you even gave a rating, bro. Okay, all right. Anyways, so there's a lot of things that happened this week, but we're really just going to talk about 2 of them. Which, you know, the biggest one is obviously Devil May Cry 5. So let's talk about that.
Are you ready?
I mean,
are you ready for that?
I mean, I'm ready as I'll ever be. I don't have the game, obviously. You know, here I am, like about what, like 2 months behind on like gaming, because you know I was reviewing like Caligula Effect, and now I just got to the Kingdom Hearts 3 part of Kingdom Hearts 3, so that says something, right?
Oh, okay. So you got past the 2.9 part.
Whatever. I hear farts every time somebody says Kingdom Hearts 2.9. It's like. I'm like, yeah, that's what I hear every time I hear Kingdom Hearts 2.9. Anyways, go right ahead.
I mean, in the game's defense, they did it as a joke.
You know, I don't even know what that means in Nomura's universe, because it seemed really serious to me. But okay.
What do you mean it seemed really serious? No, it didn't.
How do you even? How can you even tell
like
that that's?
They just like randomly like went like ding 2.9. Like it was obviously like playing up the fact that like, yeah, we know that we come up with a bunch of dumb names for stuff.
I don't think you're giving Nomura too much credit on that.
No,
I think you are. I think you are.
No, I'm not.
Yeah,
I played more Kingdom Hearts than you. I would know Nomura better than you at this point.
Okay, all right, whatever.
Dude, it's clearly a joke.
Yeah, okay, whatever, bro.
Whatever.
Anyways, so how is Devil May Cry 4.5?
Oh, I see how it is. Wouldn't that be the reboot?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't care. We're just throwing out decimals like freaking Nomura at this point, okay?
Anyways, Devil May Cry 5. I'm on mission, I want to say 14?
Mm-hmm.
13 or 14, around there. I believe there are 21 missions in the game. That's not counting the fact that you can replay missions as a different character.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just replaying the same mission again. It actually changes the mission. You see different parts of that level. You see that level from like a different perspective.
I mean, that's kind of like how they're working that, what's the system called again, where you can see like other players like, you know, concurrently and stuff like that, but not exactly interact with them. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, that's kind of how it works, right? Where during those missions where you can choose to play as a different character, you what the characters that you didn't choose, another player can play as that character basically, and you can fight with them. You can like, you know, you'll be fighting next to them.
I see.
Which is kind of neat.
Mm-hmm. I think I've already expressed my opinions on these. I do not like these pseudo let's pretend it's co-op but not actually co-op experiences. I mean,
well, there was some data mining done recently, and it shows that there is code for a co-op mode for Bloody Palace.
Okay.
Okay, so
I mean, that's just like basically the horde mode thing that you could play co-op in like Bayonetta 2, right?
I haven't played through Bayonetta 2 yet, so I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Anyways.
Okay, well, Bloody Palace for the uninitiated is basically you go through level to level and you just fight like endless monsters until you reach the end.
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying that not only is there code for co-op for Bloody Palace, but there's also code to eventually play as Virgil.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So chances are he's going to be a DLC character at some point.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But anyways, getting off that, I have not finished the game yet, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
But I am almost tempted to say it's the best in the series.
Okay. I mean, you'll know, obviously, you played all of them.
So yeah, I've pretty much beaten, barring this one, obviously, every entry in the series. And this game is freaking amazing. I feel like the only areas where this game falters compared to like 3, for example, because 3 is, the fan favorite for a reason. I feel like 3, I obviously not done with the game yet, so take this for a grain of salt at the moment, but I feel like the writing was still better in 3. Like, you just can't beat the rivalry between Dante and Virgil. Like, that's legendary.
Yeah, that's tough to beat in general.
Yeah, it was so tight. Like, it's a hard act to follow.
Mm-hmm.
And I also felt like, even though I do like the music, I think I preferred the music in 3 as well. But that aside, like, Devil May Cry 5, I'd say as a whole is just better than every other game. It feels like it has the most content. It has the most bang for your buck. It has like so much to it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not even done with the game yet. And I feel like I've already had more content in this game than like, most other games in the series. Like, it's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, number one, man. The most bang, bang, bang for my buck.
Wow, 3 bangs.
Yes, because it pulled my devil trigger.
I see. I see what you did there. Like, one of the things that I appreciate about this, like the approach Capcom has had, not just this generation, but the previous generation, is they create some really incredible game engines. Now, I know that a lot of you guys listening out there who are listening to this and are like, why are you geeking out about a game engine? But it's the tools, I feel, that enable things like these, like the Resident Evil series and of course Devil May Cry 5 to happen. In the previous generation, we got something called the MT framework, which is stands for multi-threaded, and that was their first game engine that literally ran on multiple cores, whether it's however many cores the PS3 was or the 3 cores on the Xbox 360. And and also the PC as well, because that's also the era where multi-core processors on PC became more prevalent. So when they made that engine, all of Capcom's games during the previous generation really took advantage of that technology. Now, in this generation, the replacement, if you will, of the MT framework is the RE engine. And of course, it got used in Resident Evil 7. It got used in, Resident Evil 2 Remake from 2 months ago. And of course, the surprise, of course, is that it's also being used for Devil May Cry 5. And, at first I was kind of like, I don't know how this is going to work, because like all that the RE engine is built for is a lot of like really mood setting lighting and stuff like that. Most of those games that are using that engine are very dark, so it's kind of, in a way it kind of contrasts with, the kind of environments that Devil May Cry in the previous games have had. Because, like, for example, like in 3, even though it can be dark in some places, there's a little hint of gray there, so it's not like freaking pitch black. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is, like, you look at Devil May Cry 5, and of course that proves me wrong, right? It's like, it's the environments are so rich with detail. The action is still fast paced and everything. It's actually really incredible from a technical standpoint how well this game runs and how great it looks with all these effects and stuff happening. So like I guess my question is like, how are the boss designs in this one? Because that's also like one of the big kind of deals about like Devil May Cry. Like you have to fight these like insurmountable bosses in order to heighten the action.
Right. So one of the biggest problems with Devil May Cry 1 and 4 are the reuse of bosses. At least in Devil May Cry 1, every time you refought a boss, they were different. Like they could do things they couldn't beforehand, but you were still fighting the same bosses again. Devil May Cry 5 has I've only refought bosses like once.
Okay.
And the story reason for it was actually pretty interesting. Otherwise, this game has had unique bosses for not every level, but for a lot of the levels, and it is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like each boss feels distinct, unique. It doesn't feel like I'm fighting the same boss again. It doesn't feel like I'm fighting a copy of a boss from like a previous game. Each boss feels unique and distinct, and I just love the fact that they have crammed so much into this game.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Especially coming off of Devil May Cry 4, where you literally have to fight these same bosses like 3 times in the same playthrough.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Twice as Nero and once as Dante.
Yeah.
And the best boss fight in the game, Kratos, you literally only fight once. Ugh.
It is crazy to think that in the previous gen, we only had one Devil May Cry. I mean, I guess you could say like DMC Devil May Cry, but I don't count that. Like if we're talking about, I mean, let's be honest, right? We're talking about like the mainline Devil May Cries, not the offshoot ones. And really, that's to me, I think that is the most surprising is that, much like Final Fantasy over the years have had lesser and lesser entries, it's like Devil May Cry got relegated to 1 in the previous gen. That's nuts to me, And
it was early too. Like that was an early generation title, and then afterwards it was just a drought.
Mm-hmm. I wonder why that is.
Because of the reboot.
You really think the reboot is the main reason why like that all happened?
Well, it's not. Let me put it like this. So the reason the reboot happened was because Devil May Cry 4 didn't bring in the sales that they wanted, but that was because Capcom at the time were looking at Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And for some insane reason, they expected Devil May Cry 4 to do Call of Duty numbers, which is just insane.
I think like every single Japanese developer had that expectation, right? Like I remember the conversations back in 2013 how Square Enix was disappointed that Tomb Raider, 2013 didn't like sell like 7 or 9 million copies. Like what number of copies were you guys expecting in the West, bro?
Yeah. But that's why the reboot happened. It was a reaction to that. They were like, well, their assumption was, well, people don't care about Devil May Cry anymore. We need to change Devil May Cry so that it appeals more to Westerners and it remains fresh and it finds a new audience.
Yeah, that was a bad call.
It really was.
Yeah, and that's that's coming from somebody who actually enjoyed the hell out of DMC Devil May Cry. Like I've always felt that if you have a strength, you should take advantage of it and not like try to change it to appeal to a wider mass market, because eventually people will realize what you're doing and they'll have less kind of appreciation of your work. I mean, great example is like Demon Souls, right? Like they really just went with their gut on that one, and that just spawned a franchise. Like didn't give a crap about like Western sensibilities and stuff. We're gonna make the hardest game ever, and now that studio, From Software is like freaking huge. So it goes to show like sometimes, you shouldn't cater yourself like towards a mass market. And actually, Capcom wasn't the only one that suffered from that during that period. A lot of Japanese developers tried to figure out how they could make games that can appeal to the West, as opposed to sticking with what they know the best, And to me, that's kind of the sad thing. It's like they lost some of their identity, during that time. But
I feel like they're starting to reclaim it again. Like, I feel like, especially in recent years, there's been a resurgence. And more like Japanese games have been coming out that have just been killer.
Mm-hmm.
The Yakuza series, Nier Automata, just now with the Resident Evil series coming back, and now Devil May Cry. Just, it's been pretty fantastic.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree.
I also wanted to respond real quick to MB17PT, who says that DMC Devil May Cry the reboot is a good game if you don't count the story. And I would wholeheartedly agree with that. I think if you completely ignore the story, it's actually a good game. Like, is it as good as the other Devil May Cry games? Debatable. I don't think it is. But when you're not comparing it, I think it's a perfectly enjoyable and entertaining game in its own right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but there are some times that you're just kind of clamoring for the old school, and that's and it's funny because looking back, right, like we're about 6 years after DMC Devil May Cry came out, by the way, if you guys want to feel old, and looking back at that, while I did enjoy that game, I missed old Dante quite considerably. So when this, was announced, I was like, man, I am all for this. This is great, because obviously it brings back the Dante that we know and love, introduces a new character in V, which actually I want to ask you a question before we move on that, unless you had something else to say about the game. How is V for you? Because I'm not sure how he actually plays.
So I was unsure about V at first because his playstyle seemed weird. But actually playing him, I actually do enjoy playing as him. Not as much as Nero and Dante, but I still actually found myself enjoying him more than I expected.
Okay, so explain how he actually works. Because again, when you watch him on streams, it's not immediately apparent that, that you're watching actually him doing things. Because most of the time he's just standing there with a book open and you're like, what's happening?
Okay, so the reason he has the book open, that actually builds up his double trigger gauge.
Okay.
But to explain how he works, he's like a puppet master. Mm-hmm. So the buttons that you would normally use for long range or melee is actually him sending commands to Griffin and Shadow.
Mm-hmm.
So square button typically tells Griffin to shoot, or depending on like where you move the analog stick, like if you hold it down, he'll do like a charge shot. If you hold it back, he'll do like this electricity force field thing. And with Shadow, when you press the triangle button, he'll do like a 3-hit combo, or if you're holding forward, he'll do like a lunging attack with like tentacles. Or if you hold backwards, he'll do like a high time type of attack, and then he'll do a spinning attack. Because he's basically, if you recall and you look at him, he is actually the same enemy type from Devil May Cry 1.
Okay.
So like after you defeat Nello Angelo in Devil May Cry 1, you have to fight this panther thing, and that's him.
Okay.
Which I think is pretty neat because now you have control of him.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a little weird at first when you're playing the game, but I think it's pretty cool because you have to think of it less as like, okay, I'm playing a Devil May Cry game, even though you are, but you have to think of it more like I'm a puppet master. I am pulling their strings. I am telling them what to do while I'm in the back. I'm reading my book and I'm chilling.
Okay.
While they do the work for me. Now, at the same time, that would be kind of boring if that's all there was to it. So they made it so that they can also get hurt and they can get damaged. And if they get hurt too much, then you can't use them, and you have to wait for them to recharge. And if you get, and the risk reward that comes into play here is, one, obviously you have less moves if you don't have them, right? So Shadow allows V to dodge more appropriately. So if he goes, then your dodge is gimped. And with Griffin allows you to double jump. So obviously without him, that's a big part of your mobility gone as well.
Right.
But another element that they bring to the table to add more of a risk reward is if you stay back, then they'll just come to life back on their own, but they will leave their souls, I guess you could say, and where they got injured. And if you're near it, then they'll recover their health faster. And then they'll be able to fight with you again. But obviously, chances are that's near where the enemies are.
Right.
So you have to play it smart.
Okay.
And you also have to think like, okay, the enemy's about to attack. Do I keep Shadow, from getting hurt by using the dodge so that he'll immediately come back to me? Or do I keep attacking? Like, there's a lot of thought process that has to go into it.
It definitely sounds like it's changing up the normal gameplay loop on Devil May Cry, right?
Yes. And I was going to say there's also Nightmare, so there's a third one. The thing is, he uses Devil Trigger to use.
I see.
So he's supposed to be like your bruiser. He's also invincible. He can't die. But I believe if he gets hurt, that might take away some Devil Trigger. I'm not sure about that. But if you don't want to bring him out, another thing you can do is you can also augment the attacks of Griffin and Shadow with Devil Trigger power as well. So there's some strategy that goes into there as well. It's like, well, you can use up a lot of Devil Trigger. You can summon Nightmare and you can augment their attacks all at the same time, or you can only do one or the other. It's up to you. And it does give you a lot of options in battle.
Wow. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah. So is there anything else that you wanted to talk about, like Devil May Cry 5? Because, I think we covered a lot of it, especially before you finished the game, even. Yeah.
So far, if this game sticks the landing, then I will some might think I'm jumping the gun. But, like, honestly, if it sticks the landing, I think I'd be safe in saying, like, yeah, it's an overall better game than 3, which for me is like the best game in the series.
Wow.
Yes, Madman, DMC 5 gets a 5 out of 5.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty deep. That's pretty deep. Okay. Well, before we continue on to the next topic of the show, like I said, there's only going to be like 2 big topics that we're going to talk about this week. It's time for us to chill. And if you want to get Devil May Cry 5 or any of the other upcoming games, including Sekiro, Shadows Die Twice, which is coming out, by the way, by the time this is released, the Friday of this week when this is released, which is crazy to think about, right, Daniel? Sekiro is almost here.
I'm not even done with Devil May Cry yet. Give me time.
Too freaking bad. That's one of the reasons why I picked Sekiro, because I knew I wouldn't have time for Devil May Cry 5. You can order this on Amazon.com using our link, which is bit.ly/Amazon Backlog Battle. Once again, that link is bit.ly/Amazon Backlog Battle. So basically, like, if you're buying anything, not just video games, of course, or pre-ordering them, but also, like, maybe a new hard drive for your PS4 or Xbox or what have you, clothes, merchandise, DVDs, animes, maybe you want to watch School Days, right, Daniel? You can order it on Amazon using our link, which is bit.ly/Amazon Backlog Battle. And every kickback that we get, which, it's a pretty minuscule amount, will go towards our PC fund. And of course, we're saving up for this because we want to get the podcast to you guys faster, sooner than just a week. We want to be able to get the video version out faster as well and not take it 6 hours to render sometimes, depending on like how it is. Because for some reason the length of time rendering video podcasts, Daniel, went up again. And I thought, it only takes like 2.5 hours. No, in this particular case, it still takes like 6 hours or something like that. And the better the better the hardware, the faster we can do these things, and of course, the easier the editing gets. And of course, it affects the quality of the Backlog Battle YouTube channel videos as well. And you thought those were already good. Well, if I actually had a more powerful computer, they could be so much better. But if for some reason you guys, feel like a little bit uneasy kind of giving Amazon your money and you just want to donate directly to us, buy us a cup of coffee. And you can do that at ko-fi.com/mybacklogbattle. Once again, that is ko-fi.com/mybacklogbattle. And basically you can buy us, a whole bunch of coffee. So if you want a cup of coffee, that's like $3. And all those $3, goes towards us. And you can set like the number of cups of coffee, like that you want like to give us and stuff, like, man, like to an inordinate amount. So, that's definitely a way to support us and stuff. You can't set up a monthly subscription for that, which is totally fine. But then we have, like the subscription PayPal thing, which is mybacklogbattle.tv/PayPal. And you can set up a subscription. Like right now, there are a few people who actually have like monthly subscriptions to us. Like I think it's like $2 or $3 each or something like that, which, it's not a lot. PayPal still takes something, but every little bit helps, especially when trying to get like hardware and stuff. And again, not only is this for hardware and stuff, but for the further enjoyment and improvement of For the Love of Video Games and the Backlog Battle YouTube channel videos. So thanks a lot in advance for that, right?
Of course, every little bit helps. We greatly appreciate it.
Definitely. So, it is with a heavy heart that I introduce the next topic of conversation. And I feel like, so I don't know if you've ever watched like the Great British Baking Show on Netflix, but that's kind of like how I feel right now when like the hosts basically, like try to announce who the person leaving this week is, on that show. It's like, I have the unfortunate task of conveying this week's the person who is going to leave this week and not the star baker, that kind of situation. And we're talking about, of course, the thing that happened last week by the time you guys listen to this. So Sega just halted all shipments of Judge Eyes, including digital sales in Japan, because of Pierre Taki's arrest. Now, by the time you guys listen to this, Sega might have reacted already to, of course, these news and stuff like that. But let me just read it to everybody and stuff, including you, Daniel. This article is from Gematsu. Okay, here we go. Sega has announced a voluntary halt on shipments and digital sales of Judge Eyes, Shinigami no Yuigon, in Japan, following news of actor Pierre Taki's arrest for allegedly using cocaine in violation of Japan's drug control law. Taki plays the role of Kyohei Hamura in Judgment. Hamura is the captain of the Matsugane family, a subsidiary of the Tojo clan based in Kamurocho. In a press release, Sega said, Sega has received the arrest reports and are currently confirming the facts, but for the time being, we will voluntarily refrain from shipments and digital sales of Judgment, as well as from things like posting on the product's homepage. We apologize for any inconveniences this may cause for customers, as well as the parties involved. In a tweet, Sega added its tweets related to Judgment have also been deleted. Sega will make an announcement regarding its future course of action as soon as the decision is made. Judgment launched for PS4 in December 2018 in Japan and is due out in the Americas and Europe on June 25th. There is no word on whether Taki's arrest will affect the Western release. It should be noted that when Sega re-released Yakuza 4 for PS4 in Japan this January, Masayoshi Tanimura, one of the game's 4 playable protagonists, was recast to be played by Toshiki Masuda due to the original actor, Hiroki Narimiya, retiring in 2016 following allegations of cocaine abuse. And there is an update, by the way, to this article. the Wall Street reporter Takashi Mochizuki reported on Twitter that Sega is currently discussing its course of action regarding the Western release of Judgment, and that a decision has yet to be made. So, anyways, I said a lot of things, but Daniel, I want to hear your thoughts on this, because I've talked with the Backlog Battle Royale community about this. They're obviously very, very like scared and actually very nervous about what's going to happen to the future of the Western release. What's your take on this?
I want to first say that it's completely ridiculous, and I understand. I get it. Japanese values are different, but we are not Japan. So why should their values, which are clearly different from ours, affect us getting a game from them?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if you want to do that in Japan, you want to, you know what, go for it. Because I'm sure it makes much more cultural sense over there. But for us, we don't care. Look how many musicians have boasted about how drugs have affected their music. And we're all cool with it.
Yeah.
But they're going, like, and to me, it's also such a slap in the face to not just the fans, but just the people that worked so hard on this game, the developers, the localizers, the translators, the PR people, everyone that have poured their blood, sweat, and tears, their heart and souls into this project, only for it to get ripped away for what? Some guy did some lines of coke? Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Who cares?
Yeah.
I think it would be fine if they want to scrap the character model, change the character model, redo the acting. If they want to do that and we have to wait a little bit longer, I'll wait a little bit longer. That's fine. I don't mind. What I do mind is that the jeopardy, I mean, the future of this game is in jeopardy for something so inconsequential in the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm.
That's basically my 2 cents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a really weird situation for everybody all around, because for one thing, we have kind of like an unprecedented situation where, like, you have a worldwide, well, not worldwide, but a Western launch coming really soon, after the fact that the Japanese is released, and now it's kind of thrown like the foreign release like in jeopardy as well. And this is, to me, like, really fascinating, because again, like, this is one of those situations where, I wish a lot of the people who criticize the United States for being too critical and too censor heavy, like, would look at this and say, Japan isn't any better. Like look at what's happening to this game, right? Like, they literally are like stopping. They pulled the game from shelves, and a lot of people actually on Twitter are asking me if they should buy the game right now in Japan, because people are actually genuinely afraid that they'll never get to play this game ever, And to me, like, I kind of echo your opinions too. It is so crazy that you're dumping millions of dollars or millions of yen, billions of yen possibly, on this game, only to pull it back and say, look, man, we're bad. This guy did cocaine. So, and there's also conversations in the Discord too throughout the day. I was talking with Thoth Beyond earlier about how there's this one lady who I think was also busted on a drug charge, and they completely deleted her, and even the things that she worked on off the face of the planet. Like, as if she never worked on any of those properties. And I think
that's disgusting. I'm going to say it right now. Like, I don't even care if Japan has different views or values on this or whatever. Just because someone did fucking drugs, that shouldn't invalidate the hard work that they did. Don't act like what they did is suddenly gone just because they did something that you don't agree with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And kind of the crazy thing too, and this was actually from kind of like a video from Jim Sterling, and Jim is a very new Yakuza fan, But he obviously got wind of this and obviously got like, he shared his opinion. One of the great examples that he cited was that here in the United States, here in the West, while we do kind of condemn some drug use, it's also why the way that we portray drugs in our media is so much more sophisticated than, oh my God, it's bad. Right? It's because if you really think about it, like Asian portrayal of drugs is very black and white. There is no middle ground where, okay, you can use drugs as long as it's for medical purposes. No. In fact, my family, is actually very much against any form of drugs, and we're traditionally Filipino. Like, we came from the Philippines, we grew up there, then we moved to the West, and for the longest time growing up, like, my family has always been like, don't ever do drugs, it's gonna destroy your life. Not joking you, that is literally what they told me, right? If you do drugs, it will destroy your life. And I'm like,
that's a very ignorant stance to take.
I agree. But that's kind of like, and that's me growing up in an Asian family. Can you imagine how much more extreme it could be in those countries if you're actually living in it? That's insane, right?
No, and that, because, that's Japan is an entire country that thinks that way.
Mm-hmm. Madman actually has a very interesting point here too, and that's something, and this is another cultural thing that is just so bad. So basically, he says, I hear the idol industry is horrible as well. Like, their image is ruined once they get into a relationship. That is absolutely 100% correct. No idols can be in a relationship, or at least even publicly, like, outed and stuff, or else their career is completely over.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in fact, I remember hearing that she's not an idol, but the voice actress for Haruhi Suzumiya was also in a band, and apparently it got out that she had sex with like one of the band members or something like that, and that's it. Her fucking career was over over something so like who cares? If that happened over here, no one would care.
Yeah.
No one. But in Japan, it's a big deal.
It's everybody's business, it seems.
Like, who are you to judge other people for, doing drugs or having sex? Like, it's not your life.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy to think about. It is absurd. And that's the thing that kind of, and lately it's kind of weird because I do feel for a lot of our Japanese developers, because I feel like, there are these underdogs that are trying to get back to the glory days of like the NES and Super Nintendo, where Japan is like at the top of the hill when it comes to game development, right? And they're still trying to get there, especially since the West has kind of like had a stranglehold on, the markets and stuff, thanks to a lot of the good games that they're releasing. So, but then news like this comes out, right? Where they're, that while they're trying their best to basically their best to like get up there, they fail to understand what it means to actually make a game, for the entire world. And I'm not talking about like what we talked about before this conversation, which is compromising your ideals and all of a sudden make like freaking first-person shooters, right? Like, I'm not even talking about that, but talking along the lines of like, okay, well, we're making games our way, but also we're going to inhibit our creativity based or our morality based off of like, and our choices based off of like what is okay from our culture, even though, of course, we're fans of their games as well. Like, imagine if like for every like spoken Final Fantasy, there was like one dude who, like in Japanese, who was like, who did something bad, like if we're gonna basically keep tabs of like the bad crap that people do, like I'm pretty sure we can make a whole list of like Japanese voice actors for video games that that have done really horrible things. But but it's just, to me, it's so much extremities that Japan does, and honestly, like I'm kind of worried for the Western release, and there's a few scenarios that'll happen here, right? And again, we're recording this a whole week before this comes out, so there might have been a statement already by the time this is released, right? So one thing that I do know as of right now, as of this recording, is that it's all hands on deck. PR, localization, production, and stuff like that. I think they're having a conversation right now. My speculation, and this is again speculation, this is not the truth. I think they're all trying to convince their parent company to still go on with the release of the game in June. And, because, there's a lot of people who really care about Yakuza from within, the Western side of Sega, right? Because I think, the interesting thing about like the Western side of Sega, and by Western, I mean Europe, America, they really know that it'll just be a matter of time until people recognize how awesome the RGG Studio games are. The previous games were hampered by the fact that there is like 7 Yakuza games, so even though they brought a lot of new people in with 0, they feel like they could probably attract more people, right? And with Judgment, they're doing everything they can, right? Full eFigs localization, English, French, Italian, German, Spanish, full subtitles, right? For a game that is allegedly just as large as Yakuza 0. That's nuts, okay?
It's incredible.
Yeah. Not only that, but the English voice act and the English subtitles change depending on what spoken language is there. That's also insane, right? Like that's unprecedented in the game space, right? Nobody else has done that. That should be a standard. They want Judgment to be the standard bearer for subtitles, okay? In general. Plus, again, English voice acting, that is freaking insane, right? Like, that's just, like the last time we had an English voice cast for Yakuza is the first one with Mark Hamill. That's nuts.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mark Hamill is Majima. If anybody remembers that, please let me know in the chat. It's insanity. And really, the West really want to make the statement that Judgment is the Sweet 16, the quinceañera of like the RGG Studios. It's a reintroduction of the studio to the world. And then this happens.
It's so disappointing.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, though. I mean, nothing definitive has been stated yet. We don't know for sure if the game is actually going to be, canceled or anything like that. So I don't think people should completely freak out yet. Because I feel strongly that like people like Scott are going to fight hard, especially given how much work he's put into it. They're going to fight for this. And I think it comes down to how well they explain to their parent company that like, hey, America is different. We don't care, right? We do not care at all that one of your actors did lines of coke. We super don't care. We just want the game, right? We are not going to look down on Sega as a company. We're nothing like that's going to happen because the values in America are different. I think as long as that is effectively conveyed to Sega of Japan, I think we'll still get the game.
MB actually pointed out and said, doesn't Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise count with an English audio? Actually, it does not. Because the biggest difference between Fist of the North Star and Judgment is that regardless of what the spoken language is, in Fist of the North Star, it's the same subtitles. It's the same. And you can't do that. You can't do that for one very important thing. Sometimes a lot of the ideas in Japanese can't be condensed in the same amount of time in spoken English. That's why Scott, specifically for Judgment, he said we're going to have 2 different English subtitles. One that localizes the spoken Japanese and the other one that is literally the English voices. That is the difference between Fist of the North Star Lost Paradise and Judgment. That is why Scott worked so hard to get Judgment the way that it is. And not only that, let's not forget, it's also going to get subtitles in French, Italian, German, and Spanish. And Daniel, like you and I interviewed Scott on this very show last year in August. Did he not say in that interview, which is, by the way, on youtube.com/mybacklogbattle, if you go down under the Yakuza playlist, you will see a 2-part interview with Scott. He said in that episode he really, really wanted to do localized subtitles for future RGG games. Not just for English, but also for all the major European countries. And of course, here we are, regardless of, what happens with Judgment right now, he managed to do it. And remember, like last year in December, when people were complaining as to why, Judgment was coming out in summer of this year, not knowing, oh, there's actually all this kind of crazy stuff that we've kind of, yet to announce and stuff. Like, people were like, why is it going to take June or whatever, July, to release Judgment? Now we know. Because he was not
working their butts off on this.
Well, that's one way to put it, but they're working on 5 different languages at the same time. I can't express this enough. That is literally making the game and playing through it 5 times in 5 different languages. 5. And remember, technically there's 2. There's 2 more. There's 1 more, because the English script is based off of either the Japanese language or the English voice acting. So that's technically, 6 languages that this game is in? Think about that.
Just crazy.
Crazy. It's insane how much work this is, Dom Hogg actually said something really interesting. We're in a country that let a guy like Robert Downey Jr. redeem himself and become a hero for children. We're very accepting, and that's absolutely true. I actually forgot about that. Thank you for bringing that up, Dom. That's actually a really good point. And again, it's funny to me, that, again, the portrayal of people who take drugs in the West is so much more nuanced and so much more detailed than it is in Japan or in Asia, for that matter, where it's just like, well, you take drugs, it's bad, but here it's like there's so much more questions about society, what's the implications of it. Sometimes it's actually a real cure. And to us, we've gone, it's almost like we went into another era of understanding about drugs and its role in our society. At the very beginning we were really already accepting, but now plant-based drugs and stuff are obviously more accepting here in the United States now and stuff, and in parts of the West, of course. And it's but here you are, in Asia, in the East and stuff, just like my family, who was trying to admonish me for, even thinking about, taking drugs. It's what? Bro, it's not all drugs are made equal,
It's so funny to me how Japan can be so advanced in some ways, yet so ass backwards in others. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, you know what else is kind of messed up, by the way, and the people in the chat, if you guys want to chime in, you're free to do so. Alcoholism and smoking cigarettes are more accepted in Japan, even though alcoholism is more important, can actually kill you if you drink too much. That can actually happen. And cigarettes as well. You can smoke yourself to death than it is for you to take drugs in Japan. How silly
Not only
is that?
But secondhand smoke.
Yeah. I mean, Japan is trying to do something about smoking. They have, they're slowly getting there, but what? A decade and a half later? And even then, there's more of a prevalence in drinking in Japan than anything else. Depression is a real thing in Japan. That's okay, though, because they're not marijuana, which can actually relax you. That's totally, the depressant is okay, right? Which is kind of ridiculous to think about.
It just saddens me think, because Kevin Smith, the director, he smokes pot, and he's the most lovable dude I have ever seen, right? He even saved a puppy that was dying of starvation, and he like saved it and nursed it back to health. It sickens me to know that like someone like that, just because he likes to smoke pot, would be demonized in Japanese culture. Like, get the fuck out of here.
It is crazy. And, let me read some stuff in the chat right now. Dom Hawk says, Japan almost seems like 1950s America. Drugs made you a demon in people's eyes. Yes, that's actually very accurate. Very, very accurate. MB says, Japan is very strict with their laws. Not just laws, MB, but also their culture, right? They're very hardcore when it comes to that. There is a book that I highly recommend called Console Wars, and by Blake J. Harris. While that's not about Japanese culture per se, it's about how Sega of America kind of took the reins during the Genesis era and really brought the success to Sega, thanks to all their marketing efforts, their brevity and their bravery and stuff. But also, it kind of contrasts how Sega of Japan was during that time. And, and one of the things they discovered was Japan is risk averse. They're very conservative when it comes to that. And I feel like that hasn't changed much. And I highly recommend that book. That's a great book.
I also recommend it. Fantastic book.
Yes. Madman says, where do you think that brings Yakuza 3's Japanese PS4 cover into this, removing Kiryu's cigarette on the cover? I thought the cigarette cover was actually classic. I have the original Japanese cover. I have the original PS3 game, because at the time I didn't know that Yakuza 3 was coming out in the US, and I still have that copy of Yakuza 3. That being said, I'm glad I have it. Unfortunately, I feel like that's, the change in culture, right? It's basically them admonishing people who, are slowly admonished. Not a whole lot, right? But it's still accepted in their society for smokers. I mean, you can't imagine how many places I went to Japan, I think the last time I was there was 2008. So more than, a decade ago. And even though people had their smoking corners and stuff, people still, are pretty lackadaisical about smoking there. People still did it anyway. So let's see. I mean, this is a very exhausting topic to even think about, because I think, I think I speak for all the fans who are listening right now, both live and of course on the podcast, that we just want the game to come out, right? Really, we're kind of, I feel like the West isn't going to admonish Sega of Japan for allowing its release. And I think I would like to imagine that there's a whole bunch of people at Sega of America and Sega of Europe right now, while we're recording this, on a freaking teleconference with Japan, pleading with them, begging them to allow the game's release in the West. Because I sure hope that they bring their best A game, because honestly, I would hate if all that hard work goes to waste. This, just thinking about the amount of work that the West tried to do in order to make this game a success, and you're just gonna fucking flush it down the toilet. That is disgusting, dude. That is really, really bad. And it's funny because the other day, Scott and I were talking about the arcade games that the game has, I told him oh yeah, one of the previews ignored Fighting Vipers. Is it still in there? And he's like, yeah, Virtual Fighter 5 and Fighting Vipers are there. And I told him man, I can't wait until this game comes out. And Scott's like, yeah, man, it's still in there. We're looking forward to it. And of course this happens. This sucks, man. There's actually a mini game in Judgment that actually is kind of a pseudo beat 'em up. And actually, MB, there's already something like that in Yakuza 5. There is a beat 'em up where you put on a VR headset and then you do a beat 'em up. So that's already done. They did that freaking years ago. So, Daniel, do you have any final words, or anybody in the chat and stuff? Do you have any final words to share, about this topic? Because I mean,
man, I just want the game.
Yeah.
I don't care if they need to change the actor and redo the cuts. I don't care. Do what you need to do. I just want the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think everybody in the chat kind of feels that way too. And by the way, again, MB is saying well, an actual beat 'em up like Final Fight. It was an actual beat 'em up like Final Fight. It is in Yakuza 5. It's not like a pseudo VR thing. It really is. And yeah, and again, like, you know, hopefully by the time this gets released, we are proven wrong, that all these worries that we're feeling right now, because you got to understand, guys, this is the day that we learned of this, you know, and we are reacting to it, and it feels so bad, you know. And actually I'm a little bit anxious to hear what's going to happen next week, and hopefully we have some good news for everybody next week, you know, once the dust is settled, and then Sega Japan hopefully says, yeah, sure, you know, it's your region. Because that's kind of the thing that, you know, that I always come back to is, you know, Sega of Japan has some amount of trust that they give towards Sega of America and Sega of Europe, right? And I hope that trust allows us to see this game in June, you know? Like one of the big deals is like, you know how like Yakuza 0 doesn't have like any broadcasting limitations. Like, imagine that was the start of the fight, guys. That was the start. The fact that we were able to like share the memes of the chicken, to share the memes of friggin', you know, like the turkey and stuff. Like, that's the start. That's how we started gaining autonomy over like Sega of Japan. And today that's going to be put to the test. So let's hope.
We gotta, oh man, I'm just like, fingers crossed, man. Again, it's like I said before, all that really needs to be done is to show the difference in values.
Yes.
Like, we don't fucking care.
Yeah, I know.
No one, I guarantee no one, unless they're like, not like, no one that is interested in this game in the West is not going to buy it now just because of this.
Yeah. No, nobody gives a crap about it. Like, who? Like, okay, well, he looks like he is the guy, but all right, whatever, bro. Give us our game.
Like, and if there are any people out there, there's such an insignificant amount of people that it's not even worth thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in chat, if you guys want to like post things and stuff, that, you know, I can send some of your messages to Scott, and hopefully he can use your energy for whatever he has to deal with. So let's all hope. I mean, I know it's kind of crazy. Anyways, guys, that about does it for this episode of the podcast. I'm really sad that we kind of ended this on a downer, but you know that we don't just talk about things and select things in the news unless it's actually something really important to talk about with you guys. So thank you very much for bearing with us as we talk about this really, I think, especially in our community, a really serious topic that, you know, I think is really important to talk about, you know? Right, Daniel?
Absolutely. And with that, tell us, Alex, where can we find you?
Why me?
Because you always do it to me. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it to you.
God damn it. Okay. So, all right. So you can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/mybacklogbattle, and on YouTube at youtube.com/mybacklogbattle. So this week, I am planning to finally release a video about Tales of Vesperia's multiplayer. Not just Tales of Vesperia, but the secret fact that most, and depending on how fast, like, Daniel can give me the list of Tales games that actually have multiplayer. You know, because that's a, you know, I hear a lot of people talk about like how, you know, man, back in the Super Nintendo days, I used to play like Secret of Mana and Final Fantasy 3 with more than one person, like multiplayer. I wish there was a game, like an RPG, that allows me to do that. Well, guess what, bucko? The Tales series has been doing it for quite a while, and you should probably take a look at that, starting with Tales of Vesperia. And we'll kind of talk about, like, you know, what that means in that game, how you can take advantage of it. Even, check this out, Daniel, even though it does not have online, how you can play it online. Yeah, right. Okay, so, and that's pretty much like what I'm planning. Obviously, there's a whole bunch more. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. So, Daniel, how about you?
All right. Well, if you want to follow me on the Twitters, it's at Shintai Reviews. And if you want to subscribe to me on YouTube, it's Daniel Santos. You can search me by looking up Shintai Reviews as well, or, you know, maybe one of my videos like Devil May Cry 3 and the Power of Rivalry, or Finding Meaning in Shadow of the Colossus. Now, as for what I'm working on, As mentioned before, I am literally suffering through school days in order to make a video about that. Um, Interestingly, like I felt like my script was suffering from an identity crisis, but I had like two people look at my script, like what I have so far, and basically both of them was like, "No, you're fine. Keep going." I'm like, I guess I'm just psyching myself out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it happens.
Mhm.
Aside from that, though, I also it's in the idea phase, so I know it may happen, it may not, but I also kind of had the idea of maybe explaining the importance of the skit system in the Tales games.
Interesting.
I even have a title lined up. Why small talk is a big deal.
Suffering builds character, Daniel. Keep it going. Nice. Okay. Well, on that note, I think that about does it. So again, if you guys want to join us every single week at 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern, we might actually change the days because I actually have a doctor's appointment for the next few weeks and stuff. But follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/mybacklogbattle for schedules on the live recordings on Discord. Don't worry, if you join us, you're not going to accidentally like trip and talk during the show. You actually get to listen to us a whole week before the show comes out and, be in the know. And it's free. Anybody can join. It's totally free. And of course, while we're doing the show, like what we did today, we're chatting with the people in general chat and of course, like really reacting to your conversations and reactions. So again, thank you very much for that. And if you can email us at podcast@mybacklogbattle.tv in case you don't want to join the Discord for some reason. That's okay too. Ask us questions, react to us. We'll read it on the show whenever we get a chance. So anyways, guys, thank you very much for joining us. You all know why we do this, right? It's all for the love of video games. Thanks a lot. Take care. Enjoy your week. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching this video. If you like what you watched, please consider supporting me by liking and sharing the video, posting a comment, and subscribing to the channel. Don't forget to click the bell icon so you won't miss any of my new videos. Also, follow me on Twitter at mybacklogbattle for the latest updates on upcoming videos, or to just chat about video games. Thanks for stopping by, and let's all have fun playing video games.